Welcome, ladies. I'm really excited today about our event, and the event is called Master Your Mind. So before we start today, I'm your speaker, by the way, and your coach, and I'm going to be coaching you on some real keys and some tools on how to master your mind. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what Master Your Mind is all about. So Master Your Mind is a book that I've written but not yet published. So I'll keep you posted when that's out. Okay, sure, next slide. Before I start, I want to share my own personal story with you. I was married at the age of 19, very young, very naive. And I was raised in a typical Asian family. I was daughter number 6, and my brother was born after me, 7. So you know that sons are prized in an Asian family. And when I was born, let's just say that nobody really threw a party. And that takes a toll on you. And although no one really said anything, as time went on, I noticed that I was feeling more and more alone, more and more felt rejected. And so I grew up taking that into my relationships. And so when I chose a life partner, I chose wrong. Why? Because if you feel rejected and you're broken inwardly, you do not make good, healthy choices. So I chose with a dysfunctional mindset. I married a man that I thought just had a bad temper, but it turned out that he had an alcohol problem and he was physically violent. I suffered physical violence from him on a monthly basis. There was times that I wouldn't make my bed. He'd come home and he'd say, "Who have you been sleeping with?" And I couldn't get my head around this, and I was thinking, I don't even have time to look after myself, see to the children, cook and to clean, and you're asking me who I've been in bed with. And that does something to you mentally. And I found myself just being torn down emotionally and mentally, to always under scrutiny. What's he going to say when he comes home today? What's going to happen to me? I better get this done. I better get that done. And you know, I found myself just getting emotionally weak, and I became a wreck, to the point that I became very paranoid. So I want to talk to you a little bit about mastering your mind, because I've had to learn how to master my mind. So I can't teach you anything that I haven't been through myself. And so the bad choices that I made were made from a void. And voids come when you don't have needs that are met. And when you grow up in a house that maybe you feel you aren't loved and you aren't nurtured, you grow up taking that into your workplace, you take that into your home and into your relationships. And that's what I did. So because of that brokenness, I made a broken choice, a poor choice, which ended up in a very bad, violent situation. There was physical and mental abuse, and I left after a horrific event. And it was the one night when my son would not stop crying. And I tried my best to get him to sleep, because I knew that my ex-husband was violent. So I thought, if I get him to sleep, keep him quiet, everything will be fine, he'll go back to normal and we'll go to sleep. But unfortunately, my son did not stop crying. So what happened, my violent ex-husband got out of bed, got the pillow and put it over his face and tried to suffocate him. And it was at that moment I thought, okay, I need to make a serious life choice here. Do I stay in this situation or do I leave? I was okay when the abuse was coming at me. I was okay when putting up with it. But when it came to my son, that was when it switched. That's when I decided I'm not staying in this situation anymore. So I left. I left a violent situation. How did I get there? How did I go from being whole and happy to that broken place, making that choice, and ending up in such a dire situation? How did I get there? I got there through making little choices, thoughts that I didn't dismiss. What happened to me, the environment I was grown up in, that is the soil that we feed, we put our seeds in, and that we are grown in. So I didn't have a very good start, but I thank God that that's not my story today. So I made a wise choice. Although poor choices led me to a dysfunctional marriage, marrying a violent partner, a wise choice to leave. It was one choice. The whole trajectory of my life changed based on one choice. And you are one choice away from changing the trajectory of your life, changing your life. So I made a choice to leave a violent partner. And I want to tell you that peace has a price. If you want to live in peace and you want to live in a nice, safe environment, you have to count the cost. And you have to be willing to pay the price. Because some of us are in environments that we just tolerate. And we think, you know what, one day it will go away, it will be fine. And we live in a hope thinking that that violent partner is going to change. Or that one day that, you know, your family going to turn around and recognize that you are special and that you are valued. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to make decisions and you have to go in the direction of peace. Because when you have a peaceful mind, you have a powerful mind. And that's where you make good, healthy decisions. Life is for living, isn't it? Isn't life for living? How many of us are living life right now? If we're honest, are we actually living life or are we really existing? Are we just getting through life? How many of us want to soar in 2020? How many of us want to soar to our full potential in 2020? That all depends on one thing, your choices. How you navigate your choices. A series of choices have brought you to here today. You thought, you know what? I'm going to go to Master Your Mind. I want to get some answers. That's a series of choices. And you are where you are right now, who you're married to, where you work, in your home environment, who you decide to stay with, whether they treat you badly or not, is all about choices. Okay, next slide. On my journey, on the past 15 to 20 years, I've come across who I call silent sufferers. People that go around suffering in silence, hoping that their situation's going to change. And I've had the privilege to coach some of these people. And when I ask the question, so what sort of help are you getting? Are you seeing a counsellor? How are you going to get out of this mess that you are in? How are you going to get your mind healthy again? Because it seems that, you are quite mentally broken. And the answer is always the same. It's always the same. Over the last 10 years of my journey, I've heard the same answer, and it is, I'm on a waiting list and I'm waiting for some counselling, and when they get back to me, I'll be okay. So in the meantime, what do? They live in hope that one day everything will be okay, but now I'm going to suffer in silence. And so today what I'm saying to you is, the reason why we put on these events is, we are no longer going to be silent sufferers. I want to break the silence. I want you to know that there is freedom. There is freedom, and that begins with your choices, and it starts within the mind. So are you ready to soar to freedom? Yes? You ready?
Yes.
I'm ready to soar to freedom. I'm going to own 2020. I've made too many poor choices. I'm not going back there. I'm not doing it again. I'm too old to keep making the same dysfunctional choices over and over again. The repeated behavior that I know that clearly isn't healthy for me. So I decided that I'm going to master my mind, and I'm going to show you how to master your mind too. So prepare to be challenged and prepare to change. You know, when you're driving your car, when you want to shift out of gear, what's the first thing you do? You put your clutch down, you put your foot down, okay? And then you shift out of gear. And there's some things I'm telling you today, you have to put your foot down on. You have to say, I'm not living in fear anymore. I'm not living with abuse anymore. I'm not living with you talking to me that anymore. I'm not going to live with envy. I'm not going to live with jealousy. I am putting my foot down. Today is a new day. I'm not going back to that. Shift and come out of gear. And it's all one decision away. So to master our life, we have to first master our mind. Now, why the mind? Why is the mind so important? Because the mind is the control center to our life. And whoever has control over the control center gains control over our behavior, over our action, and over our choices. It's the headquarters where we check in. It's the place when we say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I think this is right. Yeah, I'm going to make that decision. Yeah, I think I might date that gentleman. Yeah, I think I might take that job. Yeah, I think I might move here. but it's here. That's the headquarters of your life. That's where you check in. It's the steering wheel of your life. It's the engine of your life. So that's why the mind is so important. So you've got to make sure that you're steering your life the right way. You don't want to find yourself in another mess. Your life is all about choices. All the choices that you make, they make up the quality of your life. So right now, if you feel you're not really enjoying your life, you're not living a quality of life, it's your choice. I know that's harsh, it's a hard reality, but it's your choice. A series of choices have led you to where you are right now. If we have got comfortable with where we are, that's our choice, okay? It's all about choices. And do you know what's sad about choices? We have to live the consequences of those choices. We have to live with the consequences of the choices that we have made. I have made some very poor choices in my life, and I've decided I'm not going back there. How about you? Made some poor choices? Me too. Too many to count. And like I said before, I feel as if I'm too old to go back and keep making any more. Okay, so everything's going to start with the belief system. We're all familiar with the belief system, okay? We know the belief system. The definition of a belief system is a set of beliefs that we support. It's a network of thoughts. Even now while I'm talking to you, there's a network of thoughts. You're processing, you're thinking, what's she saying? Do I like this? Yes, I agree with this. Yes, I don't agree with this. And then you make up a choice. Yeah, I believe that. So the belief system, put another way, is a belief system with a V, believe. So unless you believe something, you're not going to respond. You're not going to act on it, and you're not going to be moved in the direction of your beliefs. Your belief system is an amazing, powerful gift that God has given to you. It is the engine to your life. Soon as you have a made up mind and you decide, yeah, I believe that, that's right for me. But what about when you believe things are dysfunctional? What about you believe that it's actually okay to be envious and hateful and malicious? It's okay to backbite. It's okay to, be hateful towards someone. You've chosen to believe that, okay? And I'm going to talk you through how to detox and root out things in your mind, root out things in your life that shouldn't be there. So the brain, what it does, it sends signals through the spinal cord, okay? Through the peripheral nerves into the nervous system, and it affects the rest of your body. That's how amazing and powerful the belief system is. So life really flows from the head down. It flows from here to here to here, emotions, and then we act it out. And it spills out through the doors of our mouth. The Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. When you are full of something, when you've been meditating on it, when you've been thinking about it, churning over it again and again and again, you almost always talk about things that are most important to you, what you've been pondering on. So how important are our thoughts? You think they're pretty important? Based on what I've told you? They're pretty important, right? How important do you think it is to make good choices? Choices, like I said, are made by little thoughts. And what the mind digests. So when you eat a meal, you take your food, you put it in your mouth. What do you start doing? You bite. You bite, you chew, you swallow, and then you digest. It's the same with our mind. It's the same with the belief system. We think about it, we chew on it, we bite into those thoughts, and then we eventually swallow it like with an agreement. Yeah, I think that's right for me. And then we digest it. And when it gets digested into our soul, they give our feelings a voice. I'm going to say that again. What we digest here, chew on, meditate on, it gives our feelings a voice. We know them as emotions and feelings. And we know women are very emotional. We're moved quite easily with emotions. And I think in particular, it's so important for us as women to have a rein on our emotions. Men are logical, women are emotional. You send a man with a shopping list and say, right, we need salt, we need pepper, we need bread, we need milk. They'll go to Asda, wherever it is, and they'll pick up exactly those items because they're logical. Women, Oh, when I got there, started talking to Sue, and then I bought some flowers, and I thought, oh, it's Debbie's birthday next week, and I thought I'll get some chocolates. Because we're so emotional, aren't we? We like to feel. Do you understand? We're very emotional beings. And so what we've got to do is we've got to learn that we've got to guard our heart. We've got to guard our emotions, because our emotions can really get us into a mess. Okay. Home of our thoughts. This is a really good one. Just as the skull houses our brain, the mind houses your thoughts. Just imagine as your mind as a home. Don't we like clean, tidy homes? Don't we like peaceful homes? How many of us want our homes to be clutter-free? Yeah? So what do our homes look like? What do the home of our thoughts look like now? Are they clutter-free? Or is there chaos in there? Come on, if you're honest. How many of us got chaotic thoughts? You know, your mind is just going crazy. It's like you're on a treadmill and you're going nowhere. And you've got this system. And this is what I do in the morning, this is what I do in the evening. And it's like you're on a treadmill, you never get off. And your mind is always busy. You never stop. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you why our minds get so busy later on. So there's 3 types of traffic that we have in the home of our thoughts. Number 1 is the visitors. Now, when you have a home, you have your visitors come into your home, they say hello to them, and they're off again. And you dismiss them, don't you? They don't stay. And these are the fleeting thoughts. These are the ones that come and they go, and then we dismiss them. So they don't really do a lot. They might influence us a little bit, but they don't really do a lot. But then we have the guests in the home of our thoughts. Now, these are the ones that we get comfortable with, that we've meditated on, we've thought about, and we've allowed. So what sort of guests do you think you've allowed in your mind? What about fear? What about insecurity? What about anger? What about jealousy? What about bitterness? Have we got comfortable with these? And then we have the intruders. How many of you, if an intruder walked into your house, would say, hello there, how are you doing? We're not going to do that, are we? Get out of here. What are you doing in my house? And that's what these intruders are. They are toxic thoughts that violate the mind. And we need to do the same with the intruders that come into our mind. Some of the thoughts we think, wow, where did that thought come from? These are intruders. They violate the mind, okay? They pollute the mind. It's like someone coming into in your home and just trashing it. We wouldn't allow that, would we? But yet we entertain trashy thoughts. Don't we sometimes? We entertain stuff that we shouldn't really be entertaining, don't we? And these are the intruders. And these are the ones that are dangerous. These are the ones that we need to master. We need to make sure that these intruders don't stay. There's some people that have allowed intruders to stay in their mind. And we know, we see it. You see perverse people that are doing horrible things that they shouldn't be doing. And these intruders have come and they've completely wrecked their minds. Things that you never think a human being should ever do. What have they done? They've invited the intruders and they've allowed them to stay. So whenever you get a thought that you know, that's not actually right. I don't like that thought. You know straight away, right, okay, that's going. You're going to go. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to talk you through how to do that. I'm going to say what you don't deal with will deal with you. It will keep dealing with you. Whether it's insecurity, whether it's fear, whether it's pride. If you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you. It will keep dealing with you. It will keep surfacing again and again. Don't think that they're going to go away. These things have to be rooted out. Just imagine the doorbell of your house keeps ringing. Those thoughts, those desires to be bitter, to be angry towards people. You know, life has dealt you a bad hand, or life has dealt you lemons and you didn't make lemonade, you just drank it and it's bitter and you hate it, you know. So what do you do with that? And that doorbell keeps ringing you, telling you don't trust these people. I don't like them, or hate so-and-so, or be envious of so-and-so, and that doorbell keeps ringing of your house, but you've got to remember, you're in your house, and you're the one that has the power. You're the one that has control, and say, you know what, I refuse to allow you in. You might knock on my door, and you might give me thoughts that are dysfunctional, but I'm not going to allow you in. You have the power to do that. Just remember, the doorbell may ring. You might get urges, you might get desires that you feel, I don't like this, but I can't help but give in to them. No, the doorbell of your house may ring, but you do not have to answer. You can control your desires, and we're going to go into that a little bit further, and I want to show you how. Okay. The seed you feed will lead. The seed that you feed will lead. The seed that is planted in the soil of your mind will lead, okay? Each thought is a potential seed. It has a potential to be planted in your mind and to grow. You think about an acorn and you think about a tree. You think about a little seed and you think about the size of a tree. Okay? Now the roots are your core beliefs. That's what you stand on. That's what you fight for. That's what you'll die for. No, this is what I believe, and I don't care what you say. I'm standing by this. And what do roots do? They hold you up. And even when you think, no, I don't know whether to do that. And because you've built a root system based on that belief, it pulls at you every time you want to move. And it holds you back. And you want to be free from fear. And you want to be free from jealousy and anger and pride, but you can't because those roots just keep pulling at you. That's the core beliefs that you have developed through all the things that you've meditated on and the guests that you've allowed into the home of your thoughts. The fruit that you see, what's displayed, how we speak, how we talk, how we live, is our lifestyle. You have anxiety, depression, envy, fear, and hate. All of these are fruits. These are evidence of what's really been going on here, gone down on here, and what we've been meditating on. And really, if I'm honest with you, this all points to the fact that we are silent sufferers. We've been suffering in silence, thinking that one day the jealousy is going to go, the insecurity is going to go, the bitterness is going to go, the fear is going to go, the pride's going to go, and we think that it's all going to get sorted one day, it'll just go away, it'll get dealt with, but it won't. And that's the truth. It will not go away, because what you do not deal with today will deal with you tomorrow. And it's all what's happening in the soul of our lives. Your environment is paramount. Where you live, where you spend most of your time is so important. What you are exposed to day in and day out is so important. It's the soil that you're grown in. Okay, when you're children, the soil that you're grown in is your family home, okay? And our life it's like the emotional womb of our world. And our parents are our first teachers. Our parents are our first teachers. Before we ever sit a class in school, our parents are our first teachers. And they're the ones that teach us our first rules in life. And they feed us through the umbilical cord of parental instruction and care. Okay, we're going to talk about mental health now. What is mental health? Does anybody know what mental health is? We see it everywhere, don't we? We see people completely broken, not sound in their mind, not talking right. And there's external signs, isn't there? There's different levels to mental health, isn't there? There's different levels to mental health. But what causes mental health is an ongoing process of just inner turmoil. It's what we've been exposed to. It's the words that have been spoken to us that have torn us down mentally and emotionally. And so mental just means mind, and health describes the condition. So when people talk about mental health, what they're talking about is the condition of the mind, okay? Disease. I've talked to you about how mental health happens. It always occurs through what we are exposed to, the environment we're in. But let's say, for example, my own story. I told you that I was with a violent partner, and what he said to me day in, day out just began to just break me. break me mentally, break me emotionally. And that left me with mental health. I couldn't think clearly. Everything was blurred because of the brokenness. And it leaves us in a state of dis-ease. Like disease, but dis-ease. It's the absence of ease, the absence of peace. And dis-ease describes a disorder of function and structure. Mental health really is, it's a disorder of the function and structure. You and I have a function and we have a structure. How we are meant to function with our minds, how we are supposed to think. We've been made in the image of God. We are supposed to be brilliant. We are supposed to be masters of our own mind. And when the mental health happens, there's a disorder of our function. There's a disorder of structure in our mind. So how do we restore the mind's health? How do we restore it? So if the health has been broken down, that means junk's got in. And if we want to stay healthy, if we want to stay fit and healthy, it's going to take discipline. We're going to have to eat right, aren't we? Good health doesn't just happen. It takes commitment and it takes discipline, which means you have to then take responsibility for the environment that you expose yourself to, how you live, what you feed the mind. Okay? Next slide, please. So I want you to know there's gateways to the mind. There's gateways to the mind. You have the ear gate and you have the eye gate. These are the windows and the doors to your mind. Just like in a home, you have windows and doors. The gateways to the mind are your eyes and your ears. Windows to the soul. So what goes in deposits influence. Do not be deceived and think you can watch pornography and it not affect you. Do not be deceived that you can watch horror movies and it doesn't deposit an influence. Do not be deceived and think that you can watch love stories, romantic movies, knowing that you are single and you're longing for a love and it does not deposit something in you. You and I both are blessed with an eye gate and an ear gate. And you know what? God trusts us with that. He trusts us. We have a responsibility to make sure that we expose ourselves to the right stuff, to good stuff. Our home life, what's said to us, what we expose ourselves to daily, deposits a lot into the eye gate and the ear gate. Like I said before, good health is a discipline. I want to share with you a story. I don't know how many of you are actually familiar with the story with the Garden of Eden. Are any of you familiar with it, with Adam and Eve? Now we know that Eve was tempted to take the apple, the forbidden fruit. Now why was she tempted? She was tempted because she looked at the apple and she desired it. It looked tasty. How many of us fancy a juicy burger or carrots and broccoli? We're going to want the juicy burger, right? Why? Because it's appealing. It looks so seducing. And so what did Eve do? She was seduced by the apple. She saw it, it appealed to her, and she thought, wow, what if I just take a bite? It looks so delicious. And the serpent said to her, did God really say? Did God really say, did he really say you don't have to eat the apple? And he told her that it would make her wise. So first she saw it and it appealed to her, and then she heard that it might make her wise. So she gave in through the eye gate and the ear gate, and what it did, it lured her, seduced her, and it pulled her down. And guess what happened? She lost her peaceful surroundings. She lost her relationship with God. She lost the beautiful paradise that she was living in, all because she didn't guard the eye gate and the ear gate. It's so important that we make decisions based on what is right and not what we feel. There's certain things that look seducing and they look appealing to our eyes, but we have to then stand back and take responsibility to think, okay, this might look good, but okay, how's this going to go? What's going to be the consequences of this action? So like I said, she bought the lie. When she bought the lie, it was terrible because she entered into a completely different dimension. She entered into the dimension of Satan because he had deceived us. And sometimes this is what happens to us. when we give into all the lies that God doesn't want us to live with, to live a lie of pride, live a lie of jealousy, anger, bitterness, all these things. We enter into a completely different world. We see things through a different lens. And so, if you buy the lie, how can the truth set you free? It can't, can it? It's the truth that's going to set you free. Next slide. Okay, this is interesting, guys. It's going to get pretty tough now. This is a truth challenge. Okay? So if we're going to change, we're going to have to be challenged. There's no way you are going to change without challenging yourself. Okay? So we're going to identify some roots. This is how we identify some roots. First, we've got to remember truth. We've got to be truthful with ourselves, painfully, brutally truthful with ourselves. There's some things we know that we've got to change about ourselves. Michael Jackson said in his song, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, me, and then make that change. We've got to look at the man in the mirror. Change starts with us. Sometimes we're working so hard on changing other people. But really, how about if we changed us and what they did doesn't affect us the way they used to? Because we would save so much more energy changing us than trying to change people. We think that if other people change, our lives will just be perfect. No, don't believe that lie at all. You can change, you can challenge your thoughts, and you can live in peace. We are only responsible for what we do. We are not responsible for other people's actions. So, truth is a hard pill to swallow, but it sets you free. How many of us still have unmet needs? I want you to write those down. Think about the unmet needs. Let's go right back to our childhood. Let's think about how you were raised. Think about your parents, the things they said to you. Things that you were exposed to that should never have been exposed to. What are the things that you saw as a child that you should never have seen? What are the things that were done that should never have been done? I want you to write down those unmet needs, that empty longing that you still live with now, the dream that you had when you were a child, and you think, one day I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and life happened, and those things got put on the back burner, and you still got that dream inside of you, and you still got that void inside of you. It's going to take humility to change. Did you know that? Prideful people never change because they think they know it all, they think they've done it all, they think they don't need any help. It takes humility. And you know what humility is? Humility is heaven's fragrance, but pride is a horrible stench. Someone once put it this way, they said, pride is like having bad breath. And the only person that doesn't know they have it is the one who has. It's normally the case, isn't it? So, it's time to revisit the soil of your past. Why that is important is because if we don't revisit the soil of our past, where we were grown, where we were raised, our childhood, if we don't revisit those things, maybe some of those moments were painful, maybe some things that happened to you and exposed to that should never have happened. I know it's painful, but if we don't revisit some stuff, they're going to revisit us. And if we don't deal with stuff, it's going to deal with us. I know we don't like pain. As human beings, we gravitate towards rest. We want the path to least resistance. Don't give me any trouble. I don't want to do this. But you know yourself when you go into the gym. If you want to gym and if you want to build muscle, you have to push past resistance. If you want to do anything great in your life, you have to push past the resistance of being comfortable in that comfort zone. So I want to go back and revisit some of the soil of your past. I want you to just jot down some of the things that you remember. Okay, maybe they're painful now. But after the sessions go on, you're going to find they're going to become less painful. And you're going to be able to assess them and deal with them better. So if you can identify anything that you know in the soil of your past, some of the things that have caused you a lot of pain, and now you're carrying that around. Like I said, what we don't deal with will resurface. I know it's a really sensitive subject, but what about the abuse? What about the rape? What about the abortion we never speak about? What about the betrayal? You were loyal. You gave your all to your friends, and then they turned around and they betrayed you. What about your family that turned their back on you and you never did anything to deserve it? What about that? And you still suffer in silence. You still think, why me? Why did that happen to me? What about the trauma? What about the things that you can't even speak about and you've never told anybody because you're embarrassed? You know, as Asian people, we have got a lot of pride in our culture. And we don't like to talk about things because we know, what would so-and-so say? There's things that I could never vocalize to people because I was ashamed. And as an Asian, I know that people would say, oh, did you hear about so-and-so's daughter? Did you hear about what's happening with her? And I think just keep it on the low, just cover it up. And so I went around just suffering in silence. And sometimes when we go to church and we go in as though we've got it all together. And if someone asks you how you're doing, you don't really want to tell them how you're doing because you don't look like a good Christian. If you say, actually, I'm really struggling with frustration and anger because I've had this situation come. I want you to know that you are not what happens to you. I want you to write that down. You are not what happens to you. Do not allow what happened to you, what was said to you, what was done to you, to define you as a human being. What was done to you and what was said to you says more about the person that said it and did it than it does to you. Okay? I want to share with you a story. If Michaela can read it for you, it's John chapter 8. It's a fantastic story in the Bible from John chapter 8. Can you read it for me?
But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came back to the temple court, and all the people were coming to him. He sat down and began teaching them. Now the scribes and Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery. They made her stand in the center of the court, and they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the very act of adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such woman to death. So what do you say to do with her? What is your sentence?" They said this to test him, hoping that they would have grounds for accusing him. But Jesus stooped down and began writing on the ground with his finger. However, when they persisted in questioning him, he straightened up and said, "He who is without any sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her."
Okay, thank you. This story is phenomenal. This woman kind of reminds me of me in a little way. The story starts when Jesus, he gets up early in the morning and he goes into the temple and he starts speaking. So he's the new preacher, the prophet in town. And the law was always about what you don't do and what you can't do. And Jesus turns up on the scene and now he's telling you that his Father loves you and that you have hope and you have a future and there's salvation. And so their law had told them, you cannot steal. That's what the law says, you can't steal. We know it's wrong to steal. You mustn't lie and you mustn't commit adultery. Now we know adultery is when you're married and you go and sleep with somebody else. You have sex with somebody else. So this was an adulterous woman. And the Pharisees, the men of the cloth, the Pharisees. And so basically, these were the religious people. And so what they did was, they thought, we abide by the law. And so what they did was, they went and they found this woman. Now, the story says that they caught her in the very act. What does that mean to you? She must have been having sex when they found her, correct? So my question is, where were the religious dudes? How did they find her? Because to them, they wanted to bring her to Jesus to be judged. Because it says, this woman is an adulteress and our law says she must be stoned. So what did they do? They brought her and the Bible says they put her in the midst. They put her in front of Jesus. Now picture this. Jesus is up early in the morning, the crowds have come to hear him preach, and he's teaching, and all of a sudden, while he's teaching, in the middle of his teaching, they throw this woman in the midst and says, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now there's an audience. Everybody stops, and she is the center of attention. All eyes on her. She's now been exposed. She feels terrible because she knows she's been caught in the act of adultery. She's been judged by the Pharisees, and now they brought her to the new prophet in town. And then the whole community has come out. And she's in the midst of this audience. And so what happens is, the scribes and Pharisees, they had said to Jesus, now you tell us, what should be done? Because our law tells us that she should be stoned to death. And we know that the law was written on stone tablets. If anybody's familiar with the Ten Commandments, it was written on stone tablets, okay? And they wanted to stone this woman. Now that shows me that the condition of their hearts is very much like those stones. The condition of their hearts were very much hardened like those stones. No compassion, no mercy. So this woman was really at the mercy of this new prophet, Jesus. And so we read on now that there was a sentence of death for her. And they said this thing to test him, hoping that they would find grounds to accuse Jesus because they didn't like his new message of hope and salvation. They didn't like the message that you can be blessed and that God loves you and God accepts you. No, they wanted you to abide by the rules. And how many religious people are there out there that want you to do the same? They want you to abide by the rules. You've got to live this way and you've got to live that way. But life happens to every one of us, and every one of us have sinned, and every one of us need a saviour. What these religious men didn't realise was, when they brought her to Jesus, feeling very proud of themselves, that they had, caught somebody that needed to be stoned, and now they could fulfill their law by stoning this woman. They didn't realise that these wolves, these ravenous wolves, they had brought this woman to her shepherd. See, this woman was a lost sheep, and she needed a saviour. And what they did was, they brought her right before the good shepherd. They brought this woman to her mercy seat. Jesus is the mercy seat. And so what did he do? Did he say, right, the law says you've got to be stoned, so yeah, I'm sorry, I've got to abide by the law? No, he didn't. He didn't do that. You know what Jesus did? He stooped down on the ground. He got right down there and he began to write on the ground. And that baffled me. That really did baffle me. I thought, why did he do that? And the accuser says that they asked him again, so, what do you say? She's got to be stoned. So he completely ignored them. And I wondered, I thought, wow, Jesus is not interested in accusations. He doesn't want to hear the things that this woman's done. He's not judging her. And he stooped down to where she is. And in a way, I felt like, this is what I felt the Lord was saying. How many of us have stooped down to places and done things that we shouldn't have done? We've lowered ourselves and we've stooped down to things that are outside of what God has planned for us to do. But what Jesus did was, he didn't judge her. He stooped down to her and he began to write on the ground, the Bible says. And I believe what the Pharisees were saying, stone her, stone her, stone her. Jesus began to write her destiny. He began to rewrite her story. He began to rewrite her name. All the labels that were put on her, adulteress, whore, prostitute, don't look at her, worthless. What did Jesus do? He began to rewrite her destiny. And I believe that's what the Lord wants to do today with us. No matter what's happened to us, I believe the Lord wants to rewrite our destiny. No matter how far we've stooped down, how far we've gone, there's some promises we've made. I'll never do that. I'll never be with a married man. I'll never let a man speak to me like that. I'll never do this. Oh, I'll never be angry. I'll never be resentful. I'll never be prideful. And then we stoop down to those places and we think, how did we get there? How did we end up here? And the religious Pharisees and religious people will say, that's wrong. You shouldn't be like that. Why are you behaving like that? That's not the right thing to do. But I want you to know that Jesus stooped down to where you are. Why? Because he's real. He's not religious. Religion can't save any one of us. I've tried it. It doesn't work. Religion will tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it. It's all surface level. But Christ Jesus, he gets in there with you. He stoops down to where you are. How can I teach you how to master your mind if I don't know the master myself? I had to learn to master my mind because the master taught me what I'm teaching you. And I'm telling you, he has a love for you, and he has a destiny and a plan for you. Next slide, please. All of us start out in life as beautiful vases, beautifully decorated. We are whole and we are contained. And when water is poured into a vase, what happens? It gets filled up. And when it gets filled up too much, it overflows. And I want you to imagine us, and we'll start out in life excited, raring to go. You know, we're happy, we've got dreams, and we're going to do this. And one day my Prince Charming's going to come, and he's going to sweep me off my feet, and it's going to be wonderful. And then what happens? Just like the vase, then love's poured into us, and we contain it with it. Thank you, I love you too. And it's great, isn't it? But then what happens when life happens to us? And life throws things at us. We end up chipped, we end up cracked, we end up broken. Some of us have got gaping holes in us of trauma. And then what happens when the love's poured into us? It leaks out, straight out of the cracks of our brokenness. And that love that we once contained, and we could say, thank you, I love you too, or, oh, that's wonderful, and it filled your heart. Now you're just left empty. And people can keep telling you that you're beautiful, and they can keep telling you, oh, you're wonderful, oh, you're so great, yeah, I really love you. And no matter what they say, it doesn't stay. It can't stay, because there's so many holes it's leaking out of. And what we find is we're leaking life. And what we need to do is we need to get those holes healed and sealed, because we only have one life. We don't want to go through life leaking life. We want to live it. We don't want to exist, but we want to thrive. We want to live. Life throws so much at us. The blows of life break us internal wounds. You know, when someone breaks their arm or they break their leg, normally you'll find they'll have a cast or they'll need assistance with crutches, and you'll look at them and you'll say, oh my gosh, what happened to you? Did you fall? You've broken your leg, you've broken your arm, oh my gosh, you think, you know. But then what happens when your soul's broken? What happens when your heart's broken? It's been ripped into two. When you've just found that your husband's been cheating on you, or you've just found out something terrible that you never wanted to know, or people have just turned their back on you, rejected you. Those thorns go so deep. And you cannot medicate what you cannot see. If you can't see a broken heart, you can't see a broken, crushed soul, how are you going to meditate it? How am I going to say to you, I'll bandage it for you? You can't see it. And so we just end up suffering in silence. Well, I want you to know that there is one who does see. Life is like a maze. And we start out in life and we end up in situations that feel so closed in. I think I've been here before. Why is this not working for me? So I'll try another route. So we go down this route. And it's so tight, it's not working. And we'll try to work our way through this life, maze-like situations. Some of them we just end up in from our own poor choices. But we've got to remember, although we can't see the way out, there's one who can. Because if you look up, there's someone who has a bird's eye view. God can help you. He can help you out of your maze-like situation. And he can show you, he'll say, stop there a minute. Don't do that. Come back. Come back to me. Wait. Okay. This is not your timing. I want you to pray about this. I want you to wait on me. And then sometimes we just rush off and do our own thing and end up again in a really tight spot that we shouldn't have been in. But if we wait and we look up to him, he will direct us out of every maze-like situation that we face. Become an instrument of God's love. I want to share a story with you of Sue. Now, Sue's great. Somebody shared this story with me once. So Sue was making a cup of tea for a friend, and the friend said, how many of you like tea? How many like Indian tea? It's the best, isn't it? How many like sugar in your tea? Yeah. So anyway, This woman said, can you put 2.5 sugars in for me, please? She goes, yeah, sure, no problem. So off she goes to the kitchen, and Sue's making the tea. So she puts the tea bag in, puts the hot water in, adds the sugar, adds the water, the milk, and then she goes and gets distracted to do something else. And so her friend says, have you done my tea yet? She goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot, I'll go and get it. So she picks the tea bag out and brings the tea to her. And she hands it over to her friend. And her friend drinks it with a horrible screwed up facial expression. And she's like, what's the matter? She goes, there's no sugar in this tea. She goes, there is. You said you wanted 2.5 sugars. I've put 2.5 sugars in there. She goes, but I can't taste it. What's wrong? She went, oh, I forgot to stir it. I tell you what, let me go back and get the spoon. So she goes back, the spoon was left on the kitchen side, came back and she stirred it. How's that for you? She went, oh, that's lovely. It's a lovely cup of brew of tea. What was the difference? What was the difference? It wasn't stirred. Every one of us have the potential to love. We have the love of God, we have the imprint of God's love in our heart. Okay? But it's lying dormant. It hasn't been stirred. And today, this is what I want to do. I want to stir you up today. There's sweetness on the inside of every one of us. We know that because when we're good to each other, when we're loved, we come alive, don't we? Just like the sugar that's lying dormant, what happens? It comes alive. And then we can taste the benefit. And we think, wow, oh, you're so sweet. That's so lovely. And that happens because what's in them has been stirred up. The good stuff's been stirred up. But then sometimes the bad stuff gets stirred up in us because of what we expose ourselves to. But today I want you to know that you can stir up on purpose, stir up the good stuff inside of you. God made you in his image. And that image is love. We are all answers to someone's problem. Believe it or not. Every one of us are an answer to somebody's problem. There's a reason why Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Why is that? Because we need each other. Every one of us is a problem. Somebody has the answer to your problem. Whether it's financial, whether it's support, they know somebody that can help you. Every one of us is an answer. So how important is it for us to become an instrument of God's love? Because we're better when we're loving. We're better. We come to life. You know what love is? It gives us an appetite for life. It's the fuel for life. Love heals wounds. Do you remember when I talked about the vase and I talked about the holes? Do you know what seals those holes? Love. Love can win every time. Love is the soothing balm of God, and it heals every ache. And it's like, you know, when you need a massage and you're in knots and you're aching, what God does, he massages every ache that has you tied up emotionally in knots. How does he do it? With his spirit, by his love. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we come to master your mind. Very important if you're taking notes. First, take responsibility of what you expose. The 2 gateways. If you don't like how you're living, you don't like how you're feeling, start taking responsibility to what you expose yourself to. Some of the music that we listen to, we might have to start listening to stuff that is promoting God's love. God trusts us with free will to choose. We've got to choose wisely. We're not robots. We're not dictated to, but we are made in God's image so we can choose freely. Like I said, the ear gate and the eye gate have to be mastered by your decision. It's time to choose right. It's time to choose right. Maybe up until now you've been choosing wrong. It's time to choose right. Discipline, prayer, and walking in obedience to God's will. That's going to lead you onto the right path. Love wins every battle. I want you to filter every thought that you have through God's word. What does God say about you? You're made in my image. You are beloved. You are loved of God. You are precious in His sight. You're accepted. You are a masterpiece. These are the 3 crossroads that you will face in life. There's choices, opportunities, and priorities. You will stand at these crossroads in life, and how you navigate these is going to determine the quality of your life. It's going to determine how you're going to live and where you will end up. And we all stand at these crossroads. Your life is a result of these. When you've stood at these crossroads and the choices that you've made, your life is a result of this. I am where I am right now based on the choices that I've made. I've thought, what am I going to prioritize? What am I going to choose? What opportunities am I going to take that are presented to me? And you know, when you're broken, you can't choose right. And your priorities isn't based on what you know is right to do. Your priority is based on filling that void. So let's say, for example, that you've been broken up with your boyfriend, and he was the love of your life, and you'll never love anybody like that again. And that void is so big. Your priority should be, let's get myself whole, let's fix myself up, I'll get in the gym, I'll look good, I can live again, I can love again. No, when you're broken, it's like your choices are based on what you lack and what you desperately need, rather than what you should be doing. So, you've got to choose right. You've got to make sure your opportunities that you take are going to be the ones that are going to lead you to success, are going to lead you to a better you. Again, environment, who you choose to do life with, peace has a price. Who are you living with? Don't answer that. But it has a price. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, and it's my gorge, it's what I live by. And any relationship, whether it be a colleague, somebody I work with, family who I sit with, who I relate with, I'll always go through this gorge. The blessing of the Lord makes rich and adds no sorrow with it. That's a proverb in the Bible. God's blessing, it doesn't add sorrow, but it adds to your life. It makes you rich. It will enrich your life. And that's what I want you to jot that down. And so when you have a relationship, ask yourself, is this adding me sorrow? Is this relationship enriching my life? Is this God's blessing? Always pray and say, Lord, did you send this person into my life? Or have I just decided to be that person's friend, or take that job, or, work at that place? Broken people usually have wrong priorities, like I said. Spending, their spending is always too much. You'll find that broken people, they fill a void with spending. They spend too much. Their relationships as well, you'll find that they drain their relationships as well. Why? Because you're broken, just like the vase I said that has holes in it. When love's poured in, it's not enough. So you end up draining somebody because you're feeling like they're not giving you what you need, but actually it's not them not giving you what you need. You're not whole to contain what they're giving you. Does that make sense? So, prioritize healing from past wounds. This year, 2020, I want you to make it your number one priority that you are going to heal from your past wounds. You are going to deal with the things that keep dealing with you, okay? Stay around truthful people. Very important. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, faithful are the wounds of... What's it say? Of a friend. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. A true friend will say to you, you know what? I didn't like when you did that. I didn't like it, I'm sorry. A true friend will tell you that. But there's kisses of an enemy. They'll just flatter you with their mouth, and they'll tell you what you want to say. That's, you know what? I'd rather someone be kind to me and tell me the truth than kiss me and tell me a lie. So this year, you want to be around truthful people. They're the ones that are going to help build you up. They're the ones that are going to have your back. You don't always like truthful people because, the truth sometimes hurts. But like I said about the truth challenge earlier, the truth's going to set you free. Stay around people that are straight talkers. Do you know what I mean when I say straight talkers? When you have a snake, it does sign language for snake is this. And you look at the snake's tongue, it splits in two. Yeah? They're not straight talkers. They don't say what they mean and they don't mean what you say. A straight talker is someone, when you ask them a question, say, yes. Or they'll say, no. A straight talker will say, well, yeah, I could do. Maybe. I might do. I'll let you know. That's not a straight talker. You want someone that says to you, right, you coming out tonight? Yes, I am. No, I'm sorry, I can't come out tonight. Because why? You want someone that's truthful. Why? Because you know where you stand. Truthful people are the kindest people. Whether you like them is another issue, but it's kindness. There's a reason why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Why? Because he's got your back. He's faithful. So we're going to prioritize getting healing from past wounds. We're staying around truthful, godly people. The Bible says 2 are better than 1. Don't isolate yourself this year. Maybe you think, I don't need nobody. People have hurt me. I don't care. I'm doing me. Forget you. That's not going to work. And that's not God's plan for your life. Don't isolate yourself. 2 are better than 1, the Bible says. You need each other. You need people around you. You know, there's a survey that was done. And this is that people that are connected in community, people that are that go out and commune with each other and talk with each other regularly, actually are healthily mentally and they're sharper in their mind. This is even the elderly that have had people close to them and are connecting with each other regularly, are sharper in their mind. And it actually weakens your immune system when you are alone. Spending a lot of time alone is actually not good for your health. So that's something you could jot down as well, that would help you. Okay, watch out for snakes. Anybody seen the board? I don't know if you remember Snakes and Ladders. Remember the game Snakes and Ladders? I used to love playing Snakes and Ladders. It was one of my famous games I used to play. So Snakes and Ladders, you have the snake and you have the ladders. Now, the ladder represents God's opportunities. God has got lots of opportunities he wants to place at your feet. And normally I find these opportunities are placed at your feet. People that have been loyal, people that keep doing the right thing over and over again, even when no one's watching. I think God put ladders at their feet. But then you have the snake. You have people that are not truthful. People that are taken captive by Satan to do his will. They are people like that. It might surprise you, but they are people like that. People with agendas. And like I said to you about the snake with the tongue, choose wisely. Choose carefully who you have around you. This has everything to do with mastering your mind, with having your mind healthy. Your environment is everything. Next slide. Let's have the next slide. Okay. Oh, okay. That's the end of our session.